Okay, guys, we got cut off today because of art and because of a fire drill. So I just wanted to kind of expedite things and get us going into chapter 5. Unfortunately, first, I wanted to make sure that we understand the importance of the Treaty of Utrecht. Like I forgot to kind of go over this today, but I want to show you a map. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to. There we go. So what you're seeing here is essentially in 1713. Okay. What do we have? We know about how the War of Spanish Succession started with the imbecilic Habsburg inbred Charles II dying and Louis XIV wanting to unite the crowns. We know all that stuff. We know about Louis XIV's wars against the Dutch and the League wars of the League of Augsburg. Like that's from all your readings in chapter 4. Just making sure that we understand that the Peace of Utrecht was partitioning the Spanish Empire. Okay, so the British get Gibraltar down here, so they control the mouth of Mediterranean trade. They get Minorca, which is right here from Spain. They also get, if we can go up here, and we can go to this European empires. They also get Newfoundland, France to Britain, 1730. They get Nova Scotia. We know that the British already have the American colonies. We know that they have Hudson Bay up here, so England is becoming more of an empire. They already got Jamaica in 1670 in one of those Dutch war deals. We also know that they get the Asiento, which is obviously the slave trade. So we've got the slaves coming over here. The Portuguese are still hanging on to Brazil. The Spanish are still hanging on to the west coast of South America, Mexico, Florida. Cuba, Santo Domingo. They will later give that up. So Gibraltar, as you can see, going to Britain here and Minorca. Let me go back to the other map. Okay, this one. Okay, so England, as we know, doing great. Asiento, right for the slave trade, penetration of Spanish markets. We know that the House of Commons will dominate. The whole Tory Whig thing. I know it's confusing, but remember, the Tories were at the time controlling the House of Commons. The Whigs were controlling the House of Lords, and the ratification of the treaty basically ended with the dominance of the House of Commons and the continuing alliance of the merchant classes with landed aristocrats. Now, in the 1700s, the Whigs will become dominant with a prime minister named Robert Walpole, but right now it's not that important that you know exactly when that happens. We can kind of go over that later. But other issues, okay, so the Austrian Habsburgs get the old Spanish Netherlands. We know that. Austrian Habsburgs, they also take Milan, which is important. They also take Naples and Sicily. They get control of that. This in the Austrian Netherlands becomes Belgium. Actually, this is 1713. Okay, so and we also know that the Bourbons can't become like both crowns of France and Spain, but a Bourbon member of the family will sit on the throne of Spain until 1931. 1931 is basically when a fascist regime comes to power in Spain during the Spanish Civil War, which we will get to in second semester. Okay, just wanted to make sure that we kind of understood where we're going and who's kind of coming up here. All right, notice how Brandenburg, Prussia is divided. Okay, Prussia is Brandenburg here, Prussia here, and it's got these little tiny parts over here. France retains some of French Comte, but we also have Savoy getting Sardinia. Savoy basically being with what's his name, Prince Eugene, right? Prince Eugene, which will help Austria retain or push back some of the Turks, as I'll discuss in chapter 5. But Piedmont, Sardinia, the Kingdom of Sardinia, so including Piedmont, also known as Savoy, and Sardinia will play a central role in Italian unification. Just like Brandenburg and Prussia will play a central role in German unification, so too will Piedmont Savoy, aka Piedmont Sardinia, play an instrumental role in the unification of Italy in the mid-1800s. Okay, so both of those things come out of the Peace of Utrecht. Savoy / Sardinia / Piedmont and Brandenburg will both significantly increase their territory. We know that France is weakened. When we get to Chapter 7, we will see just how the repercussions of the Peace of Utrecht will put France into an economic and political tailspin. Okay, just wanted to make sure that we are all on the same page on that. Okay, so now let's go back to here. And I wanted to bring this up. Okay, so 1660, Holy Roman Empire, Republic of Poland, Ottoman Empire. So we kind of, hey, I'm back. Okay, all right. So what are the basic themes here? Right, the basic themes are that Poland, Ottoman Empire, Holy Roman Empire, and then what will become Prussia, Austria, and Russia in this chapter. Obviously, Prussia is coming to dominate parts of the Holy Roman Empire, being they will start to fight over pieces and try and consolidate territory. Austria is trying to do the same thing, but the thorn in their side are the Turks, and Russia's doing its own thing in its own way, as you will read about tonight. But the failure to centralize and modernize sufficiently, okay, this is the fundamental difference between Western Europe and Eastern Europe. Just as Louis XIV is doing all this centralization, just as England in the House of Commons, Parliament is kind of centralizing its power and creating a constitutional monarchy, as we know, John Locke and the House of Commons and the Glorious Revolution creating a constitutional monarchy. Just as those two things are happening in the West, the East is just decentralized, backward, not modernizing. There's no commercial revolution. There's oppressive serfdom. There's no personal freedom, no economic opportunities for a middle class. This is uncompensated compulsory labor that the serfs are doing. So, and remember the Russian word. The Russian word that I gave to you guys. So the robot, meaning, and in Russian, robot, to work. Okay. If you were able to, I don't know if you can see that really. I should probably do a little bit more of a bigger. If I can teach you guys to write that out, that might score a few points on a FRQ. So, in the East, the landlords, in that old-fashioned feudal sense, right? Feudalism still strong in Eastern Europe. The landlords are the only political class. The landlords are the only political class. In the Ottoman Empire, the state officials and the caliph and the clerics are the only class that really matters. Maybe the janissaries, meaning the military in the Ottoman Empire, they matter too. Obviously, militaries always matter. But for example, in Poland, they're still doing that whole feudal thing of like raising their own private armies. Russia, their serfdom lasts until 1861. They don't free their serfs until 1861. Interestingly, the United States, they don't free slaves until 1863. So Russia actually freed their serfs before we freed our slaves. Interesting. So the basic question we need to ask is, like, over the next 150 years, from 1660, okay, I'm going to switch over here, between 1660 and 17